Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is a visionary artist, illustrator, seamlessly merging traditional wood carving techniques with a contemporary touch. Please welcome the creative behind Great Scott Designs, Scott Martini. What's going on, Scott?
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Great seeing you. Always a pleasure to get to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. My usual first question is always, what's your go-to lunch or sandwich?
Yeah, and I'm ready. So I've heard enough of your podcast that you always ask that question, so I was ready.
Okay.
And it took me a while, but then you specified in the that it was going to be a lunch sandwich. So
yeah.
I'm going to go grilled cheese with a slice of tomato. And I like my grilled cheese on the outside of the bread. I like the mayo on there, and you pan fry it, kind of like they do Cuban sandwiches.
Yeah.
And I like it to stay, don't push it down. You know, I like it to stay like fluffy. And that's
I like it. What kind of cheese do you like?
Oh, I do the yellow cheddar, basically the boar's head standard. I don't like the one you peel out of that plastic. That one just
the Kraft singles.
Yeah, it's good for macaroni and cheese, but it's not not for my grilled cheese. And the tomatoes got to be good.
Do you? And I was going to ask about the tomatoes. The tomato goes into the grilled cheese when you do it?
Oh yeah, you need a piece of cheese on the top, a piece of cheese on the bottom. The tomato goes in the middle.
Do you put? Do you season the tomato?
A little salt if it needs it, but if it was a good tomato and it was picked at the right time, you don't need nothing.
I love
Perfect.
it. Now you said something, and I'm just kind of curious, and I'm not going to harp on sandwich talk the whole time, but you said because you knew it was lunch. So is there a different answer if it was like a dinner sandwich?
Oh yeah, like if it's like a late night sandwich.
Yeah.
Like maybe I've been hanging out and we're doing shows, and a late night sandwich. Probably been drinking a little bit. I go PB&J. That's like make a quick PB&J just so you know you got to eat something, and that's it's just the perfect sandwich. That's another perfect sandwich.
No, man, I love that. All right, so obviously I could talk sandwiches all the time, but I want to talk a little bit about your evolution, how you've kind of come to what you're doing, because you're really doing some really fun stuff. But I'm very intrigued by it because of the fact that, and what I'll just do is this. I'll first tell people a little bit about what they can expect when they see your work. So like when someone goes to Great Scott Designs, obviously you're a designer, you illustrate, but you do wood carving stuff. So I want to know, like, when people ask you, what's Great Scott Design? What can I expect to buy? Or, what exactly are you telling them?
Well, I've been changing what I do constantly. Like, I've gone from making puppets to sculpting tiki planners to screen printing. I screen printed shirts. I like to constantly change up what I'm doing. And right now I've been doing a lot of wood carving type of stuff. And, that's what everybody's seeing up front. The stuff I'm working on behind the scenes, I guess you'd say, like it's not coming out the shows yet, is a lot of my screen printing and then like doing a lot of hand painting and then screen printing over it. And then I'm also working on other types of like really, really big pieces that are like layered together and painted and just, I'm always trying to do new stuff. That's what I like to do. So for me to be like, what do you expect from Great Scott Design? You'll always see my style as an illustrator or a sculptor or fabricator or whatever you want to call it. But I always am constantly trying new stuff.
I love that. And that's perfect because they kind of will transition to all the different parts because I have questions about all these things. So when we originally met, I want to say we met at Atomic. It was, I think, the first time we may have met. We may have met somewhere else, but I know.
Yeah, we met before Atomic because I remember you had your booth set up, and there's nothing more than I love than you come into a booth or you come up to a booth and it has like a feel to it. And you have like the picnic table, deli type of feel. And I don't remember what show it was, but I remember saying, oh, dude, we do this show called Atomic.
Yes.
You should try it out. And I remember seeing you there. And the booth I saw you at, I think you had a little bit bigger. And then that booth, you still did like the picnic table. And I was like, dude, how was it? And you're like, thanks. Like this is a cool show, you know? And
Yeah,
that's,
that is
and I probably didn't see it for another show for a solid 6 to 8 months, you know, because
yeah.
that's how it goes.
That's exactly how it goes. Yes, and that is true. Like and when I first met you, I met you and your wife Ashley when you guys were doing like the original brand, the Housebroken clothing.
Yep. Yep.
Where you screen printed all that stuff. You screen printed your own shirts. They were super fun. Like it was like beer and like dog designs. It was just a lot of fun stuff. When it came to that, where where did the transition go? And I know obviously like we'll talk about the foam heads and all that stuff, but I'm kind of curious, where did the transition go? Because I know at one point you also had tiki stuff. I always saw the tiki planters as well. So like what was the transition? You're like, hey, I want to go from away from the screen printing shirts to now doing do a more elaborate fun wood carving and wood block reliefs and all that stuff. Where did that transition go to?
So probably because uh, I see people like throughout the year. Like I probably see you like 4 or 5 shows a year. It seems like a quick transition, but if you could see every show, because we do a show almost every weekend. If I'm lucky, I get a little bit of a break. I do every other weekend. I slowly keep moving in new stuff. So you probably saw me when I had big bins of shirts, like cabinet, and then my tiki sculptures were across the top.
Yep.
And I just slowly, over the course of that year, kept removing shirts until we got more and more and more art that we could hang. And even at the time of doing the screen printed shirt, I was screen printing on canvas and stretching it, and we were selling that as well. And then an important event that happened, we were doing a show in Cocoa Village, and we left for the night, and a storm or wind came through, and it ripped all our cabinets apart and destroyed all our stuff that we had our shirts in. And that was when I said, I'm not building any more of this stuff. We'll just bring shirts on racks. So then we started shrinking down the rack, which then you have more space. And then I just kind of was forced to fill in the space with different types of art. And then, I mean, I've always had a wood shop just for building household furniture and whatever. So I started doing more carvings and cuttings and framings. And I don't know, then you just end up here.
Did you, and I may have misread this, so if I may be totally wrong and horrible in my research, but did you do originally, because don't you guys have like a tiki type thing in your backyard or something like that? Did I read that
Yeah.
correctly?
Me and my wife forever, well, for the last 10 years, we moved to Port St. Lucie and we got a big backyard and we built a bunch of decks and pergolas and stuff and a pool, and we lit everything up and we made like the whole backyard into like totally like a tiki jungle type of theme. So a lot of the stuff I first started making was to hang on my poles, that were my pergolas and stuff, like to decorate. And a lot of the planners were because I wanted cool shit like that. And then, I would make a mold of them after I sculpt the first one and then bring them out to sell. And people like them too. So.
And that's kind of what I thought, kind of the transition. I kind of figured that was part of somewhat of the transition, was like, oh, I started doing this. I like this. I'm like, I'll keep doing this. How did you get into woodworking and actually doing, like doing the sculptures and doing like what you do with like your pop? Cause like those things are pretty, we'll talk a little bit about, like get a little bit more information on like that, but I'm just kind of curious, like, how did you get into the woodworking and how long does that process usually take when you're trying to do, one of those like fun wood carvings, like the pop culture wood carvings that you do?
So as far as getting into woodworking, I don't even remember when. As a kid, I was like a little skateboard punk, and I had a little crew of skateboard kids, and we would build ramps. So I would just pick up the tools with everybody else, and just like I don't ever remember anyone teaching me how to use the circle saw. I just remember using it, like. So that's how I kind of like I guess never had fear of like all the machines and all that
Yeah.
shit. And then my grandfather had a little wood shop in his house. And whenever I came over, he would be like, "Do you want to play with the scrap wood?" And I would like sand the wood down for I don't know why. Probably they just want to keep me busy because I'm a
Yeah.
hyperactive person. And yeah, so like my whole life, I've just always been like good with stuff like that. I don't know how, but that's so I don't remember how I got into it or when I got into it. I just kind of was just kind of always there. Same with like drawing. Like I've always just as a kid, like I remember like if I didn't have paper on my desk in school, I would just draw all over the desk. And, you know, like I just always drew. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't remember starting. I just remember
Uh,
I've always been.
doing. You're always doing.
Yeah,
How
I've always done it.
so tell me a little bit about because explain to people because one of the things that I love and obviously like you said you guys are constantly selling, you guys are constantly going somewhere. Can you tell people or describe people some of the two things? One, when you guys like your pop culture, like tiki stuff, like how big it is, and then like how long does it take you to actually make one? Because I mean, is it hand carved? Is it like you create it and then it's like a machine that does it? How does? Because I mean, it's awesome looking. I know you guys use pine. Is it pine wood? What?
Yep, it's all I carve in pine. That's like the softest. I mean, next to
Yeah,
balsa, but you can't just get balsa in bulk. And well, you could, but not in the shapes and everything I need. But it's a process. So there are machines involved. I don't chisel away. I could never sell
thank
them for the
God.
price I do if I
I
did.
was gonna
No,
say,
you know, there's times where like I want to, because you get like a little bit more of a hand feel to it, you know. But because I built all my machines to carve everything. When they come out of there, there's still I leave hand work to be done, so it still has
yeah,
a feel. But if I had to physically do everything from the get go, I mean, I have small pieces that are only $65, you know. Like I couldn't do it. So, and
yeah,
I also love technology, so it's super fun to learn like you could build this machine that was built to do this one thing, and then you're like, oh my god, you can make it do this other thing, and you could do this, and you know, like uh, I just like that stuff, you know, like I
yeah.
like 3D printers, I like lasers, I like I bought a rug tufting gun. It'd be fun to make a rug, and not too long ago I was looking at you could probably build a plotter to get the tufting gun to make the rug, and I was like, dude, that would be awesome, you know. So I just, I don't know, that stuff always just takes me in, you know. I don't
Yeah.
maybe the generation I grew up in, because I grew up, you know, the internet started, and you know, I had a band, and we were like, ooh, now we can, you know, put our band online, like you can learn HTML. Like it was always like my whole life, I've always just wanted to learn a new little, like whatever new thing pops up in front of me, you know. So,
I love that, dude. I love that. So how long does it take you now to make one of those like tiki designs when you once you have the design and I'm talking more of like not the whole because obviously there's a process of you having to
yeah,
first come up with the illustration because I'm assuming you do the illustration then you got to do like the plotting of how it's going to look
yeah, yeah,
on it and then basically then after you do that then obviously comes the assembly part and then there's
yeah,
painting I'm assuming afterwards as
yeah.
well, right? And
Yeah,
all of that. So how long
that's
does
a
that
big
usually
one.
take?
So I can fill a booth in a little over a month. So if I have a show that just completely wipes me out, I'm in bad shape because I usually have a show every, you know, 1 to 2 weeks. But it takes me about a month and a half to fill the whole booth. And uh, most of the time we'll do a show and they'll just be like 2 or 3 things that were a hit at that show. So then I
Yeah.
can just go crank out like if I have a week if I was just making like one of my favorites right now is Godzilla, I could probably crank out 12 Godzillas in the week. And then I would literally be sanding, staining, painting, and then they'd probably still be semi wet, and I would still be packing them in and trying to put wax paper between them so that I have enough to sell. And by the time I get to that show and the van gets hot on Saturday while I'm driving, you know, everything's good to go. So that's it kind of gives you an idea. If I did
Wow.
one at a time, it'd be torture, because if I can assembly line it, I can kind of like lay them all out and cut, sand, paint. Like you can do it all like all the
Yeah.
same, you know. So
Wow.
hope that explains it.
What that's now, of course, there's like the big difference I would say because when I remember when I saw you and I because I saw you at Punk Rock and I saw like that's when I like I've seen like that's been a while. So when I saw everything set up that way, I was like, it's definitely I'm assuming it's definitely heavier because it's not you're not doing shirts anymore. So
Yeah,
there's also a lot more weight and a lot more other stuff like that. Like that's got to be like how I mean, obviously you guys do this full time. This is exactly what you do.
all we
Um
do.
that's all you do. And I know that's something that I've always admired about you because I know that something like you always were like I don't want to work for the man. I'm going to be the man and I'm going to run
Yeah.
my own business and do my own thing. And you guys do a hell of a job with it. How are you guys finding cuz and that's the other thing. You're in Port St. Lucie, but you guys are traveling everywhere.
Yeah.
Um like it's nonstop. So like tell me a little bit about that aspect because that's a lot. Like that's like the loading, the unloading, the having to come back home to then create more to then go out again. Like how do you guys plan it? Do you when you guys go about because you guys also do a lot of large conferences, but like how do you guys usually on your when it's not conference season, how do
I,
you guys usually plan it or figure it out?
to be fair, I don't. My wife does all that. So I work on new artwork, um, and I pack the van. She plans to travel. She plans. I mean, she pretty much manages me. She
Yeah.
travel, hotel, or Airbnb, which is awesome because a lot of times when we Airbnb, we connect with other artists and we share and the Airbnb, and that's super fun and saves on cost. She
Yeah.
finds the shows. Um, she knows event coordinators and she keeps in touch with them. So when a new show is coming up that they're putting together, they reach out to her. Like so, she does all that. So I'm super thankful because I
Yeah.
like I said, I don't even know. I don't even know how we're going. We did last year. We did a show in Georgia, and I don't know like where it came from or how or anything. She was just like, all right, we're doing this, and this. And then we're in Georgia. And I was in Stone Mountain. And I was like, dude, like, this is awesome. Like, I was in the woods in Stone Mountain. And then when the people came in for the show, it was like 200 plus thousand visitors. And I was like, oh my
Wow.
God, where did this come from? It's fun. It's like awesome.
That
So that's her.
Yeah, so
I wish,
she's definitely a
uh,
key to your success
yeah,
for sure. And
for
the fact
sure.
that she helps with the aspect of you she's like you be the creative and I'll get us going because I always see the two of you. So how far have you traveled doing all of this and transporting because it's not like you can get on a plane and be like, "Hey, I'm just going to grab a few
Uh,
things and,
that's
a
my
few
problem.
prints or whatever." You got to drive it all. So like how far have you gone?
New York's the furthest. I really want to get to California. Um, weight with our product is a problem for me because I do want to travel more. I want to go to California. I want to do designer con. I don't know how to get there because if it takes me a week to get there and a week back, like I got to make a lot of money, and I don't
Yeah.
know how the show is right off the bat. So those are your risk versus reward. So I've been trying to figure out like maybe I could just bring slaves and then ship them to the people so I don't have to bring it all. But that has been a challenge. Weight and yeah, the farthest I've gone is New York, and we do everything in between. But New York's the
Wait.
furthest, and New York was New York MegaCon, which was awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys did that. And you guys I know you guys like do MegaCon and you do all the cons, which obviously makes total sense because with all the pop culture style tikis, I mean they're just and all the different designs that you have, because if you're not doing that, the other thing that I love that you have talked about, like the woodblock relief prints,
Yeah.
which obviously like that's pretty cool. So is that the same thing where it's like you're basically using the print and then making rolling it and then making it into a print? How does
So I
that is
make
that how
the woodblock prints I do from a wood block, but I don't carve them like linoleum. Like traditionally, like I did when I
Yeah.
grew up, learned. I got a laser. I built a laser table, 4 foot by 4 foot, and I can just literally drop the image in there, and then it'll carve the wood block for me. It takes way longer than if you did it by hand, but the detail is perfect. And I started like on a day that I cut a wood block. I probably start at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and it probably finishes about 10 to 12 hours later. And then I have a block. So while that's running, I can do other stuff. I can take care of, I can paint, I can whatever else I need to do. And
Yeah.
then I take the wood block and then I brace it so it can never warp. And then I just do it like a traditional wood block after that, and I make wood block prints. So I like to merge technologies with like old school stuff, but I never want to just inkjet print something. Like I want it to
Yeah.
still have some form of like handmade still in there. Like I want it to, but I don't also. I know there are a lot of artists that are like, I don't want to go down with all the new technologies and this and that. I don't want to do that. I even fight it with myself, but I feel like it's inevitable, man. There's so much cool shit you can play with. Like
Yeah.
you can't not do it. You,
Yeah.
you gotta like play with it. Like imagine if you were an illustrator and you said, I'm never gonna screen print. I just want to draw everything by pen or pencil or whatever. I mean, you'd be so limited. Like there's all that
Yeah.
cool stuff. So,
Well, and it's also how, I mean, that's also the thing that I love about what you guys have done is, which is like, you've constantly are evolving. And that's kind of how every small business is. They got to be able to evolve and adapt. And then the other part is you being a creative person, you just kind of want to figure out different outlets. How else, what can I do now? What can I do next? What comes from this? So it's like, and that's the great thing about it. Cause you're not stuck in your ways. You're open, you're adapting,
yeah.
which is one of the reasons why you're so successful.
Well, I may even struggle with that though. Like I struggle with even in the sense that I buy tools that I'm like, dude, this would be so cool to do this thing with, and then they just sit in a box, you know. So it's like it's a battle. It's
Yeah.
not easy. Because a lot of times at the end of the day, I feel like my drawing skills are the most important thing. I should be focusing on that, but I'm easily distracted with the next thing that's like, I saw a plotter pen that after you do your drawing in Illustrator, it'll follow your path, and then the pen will redraw it for you. I was like, oh my god, it's like a hand drawn pencil or
Yeah.
pen every time. And I was like, I gotta get this machine, but I don't know, do I? And then that's what happens. I buy it, and then I'm like, I put it somewhere, and then it gets forgotten. And maybe not forever though. Time might go by, and then you find it, and then you're like, oh, I always wanted to use this, and I have a little downtime, and then you start goofing off with that, and people are like, when did you do that? And you're like, oh, that's been sitting in my garage for months. So it's like
Where
fun.
where where do you think you get your artistic inspiration from?
I, you know, I mean, I like a lot of artists for sure, and I'm always like looking at other artists and going, damn, why don't I think of that? That was a good man. Look at that technique and this and that. So that's one part, like, because you can watch like lots of artists and you see them keep getting better, and you're like, man, they keep getting better. I have to like now it's like a competition, I guess, with myself where like I want to get better. And then I'm also way into like ancient art, like sculpture work and stuff like that. And I love to like look at that shit and be like how intricate they would get like these little coil carvings, like Mayan sculptures or Egyptian sculptures. So I get a lot of inspiration from that too. I look at old stuff that is completely nameless. You don't know who made that
Yeah,
stuff, but the craftsmanship is like, dude, not only how did they do that, but how is it so perfect and like so I love stuff like that too. So I get caught up in that, and that's kind of what sometimes brings me to the tiki stuff is like I want to make like an old relic that is like sculpted well, but looks like it's still old and fell apart. Like when you look at like the Descent of Indiana Jones. You look at
yeah,
that and you're like, this is so cool, but it's completely modern, but it looks old, and so I guess that's where I get my inspiration, just those
I love it.
things.
No, man, I think that's great. So talking about like I'm you brought it up and I saw it and I was kind of curious like so I saw in your past life you used to build mascot heads for sport teams.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I dude, since a kid, like I remember going to a museum where they were showing all Jim Henson's puppets, and they had the dozers from the Fraggle Rock, like the
Yep.
soft, And I was like, fuck, I want to make that, And I don't know how old I was, 10, 11, 12, and I got home and I built like I don't know, I sewed a square and put a nose on it. It was fucking horrible. But I was like so into it. And I always wanted to make stuff like that. And when I got older, I was like, God, I always want to make stuff like that. So I started making stuff like that. And I made a website called Milk Rocket. And I called it Milk Rockets because when I was a kid in elementary school, me and my friends used to fold the old milk cartons in the rocket and like go, and shoot them. So I made this website and I started building like puppet tutorials as I was learning stuff. Like I was like, dude, this is how you make the stitch death appear, and this is how you dye the fabric, and this is the type of fabric that Jim Henson used. And I just built this whole website, and a year or so went by, and then people started reaching out and asking me to make stuff, and I was like, okay, okay. And I got like a bunch of cool jobs. I built puppets for the owner of the company called Zappos, the shoe
Yeah.
company. He asked me to make these three, four. I'm not a big sports guy, so I didn't know who they were, but he sent me pictures. I made the puppet. Um, Someone asked me to make some show in Trinidad, the Trini Santino. Made a big head for that. A music video. They asked me to make a dude with dreads. And then probably my favorite project was an autism company that was building videos to teach kids how to with autism or whatever, any special needs, how to
Yeah.
help them in public and stuff like that. And they wanted this puppet called Buddy, and I built Buddy, and then they did all this video production, and it was fucking good. It was a good for me because it straight up looked like like Jim Henson type, and I was because they did all the lighting right and everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was really cool. And then the only problem with that was the jobs were very far apart.
Far in
So
between.
yeah, and there was no Patreon back then. Like I feel like had there been Patreon back then, I probably could have still been doing that. And I don't know if that's good or bad. Like I'm super happy with what I'm doing now anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, but that's how I did it.
That's awesome, man. I never knew that. That's super fun to be able to kind of do all that. So I kind of want to get an idea because I've never done a megacon, and I've talked to many people who have, and I know, and I do think that my stuff could work there just because it's different, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think people like that's why I think it's so cool the stuff that you're doing because usually when you go to these events or these big conferences, you're seeing the same things over and over again. So
Yeah,
when your stuff comes, you stand out. And
yeah,
so I kind of wanted to get like a little bit of an idea of like because you guys put so much time into this, you've kind of figured out what are like some tips for someone who's wanting to sell at one of these events. Because for me,
like
my
you.
big thing is it's just me. So like I'm
Yeah,
always worried like a big event like that many people like I don't think I can handle it one person. But I'm also kind of curious like if I did get help, what are some things or advice or things that you've learned along the way that make life a heck of a lot easier when you're doing a conference or and you're selling at one of these things?
right off the bat, uh, completely honest, I would not do a megacon without my wife. I wouldn't do it without a second person, but I wouldn't do it without her for sure. Those shows are hard, but they're good. You know what I mean? But pulling it off by yourself, when it gets crowded, you're gonna have to go to the bathroom. You're gonna want to eat. You need someone to help you load up. Um, yeah, it's a lot. Like those are big shows, and they're usually they start on Thursday, they end on Sunday. You need someone to run out to the car to get in line, like when the show's starting to break down, or you might be stuck there forever. There's a lot going on. So if you do one of those shows, I'd recommend don't do it by yourself. You should bring another
Okay.
person. I'd also recommend, especially for you, I would stay away from the buy sell area, like all the Funkos and all that type of stuff and people selling old toys, because that is a lot of like everybody's selling the same stuff. They just buy and sell it. So I would recommend try to stay away from there. Try to stay. The artist alley is okay for like your first time, but I feel like your booth you could do way more with that. Like you could set up like a straight up like 10 by 10 deli. You know what I mean? Like you could have the metal table in the front, and like you could like literally make it look like you're doing sandwiches, but have the shirts hanging up. Like I would try to go that route. I try to go a 10 by 10 for your first show. Try maybe don't do a corner booth the first time. Um, but Artist Alley, and I know artists do well in there. I do also think though you can get kind of lost in there. There's like so many people in there. So,
Yeah.
but also the price is right. Like a booth for MegaCon for like a 10 by 10 is way more than an Artist Alley booth. But they only give you like a 8 foot by 4 foot, and you kind of do get lost with the artist, and that's kind of a shame because those artists are really good, and
Yeah.
they kind of just get lost. And I mean, I feel like I'd rather see more artists in a 10 by 10 than see more buy sell Funko Pop type of stuff. But that's kind of they probably have the money.
Yeah.
Those guys sell like all the collectibles and shit.
Mm-hmm.
They probably make way more than everybody else. So that kind of just governs who gets what. So, but on a good note, for the last like 6 years, 7 years or so, we've been trying to get out of the buy sell area, and they keep moving us to like a little bit better of a spot. And this year, one of the guys that managed where the booths go came over and was like, I was like, dude, I keep asking, how come I can't just be over there as a featured artist? And he's like, I had no idea this is what you were doing. I'm going to make sure you're a featured artist next year. You're just email me, remind me. And I was like, hell yeah, finally. So I guess another thing with those big conventions is you kind of got to keep doing it until establish, some connections and this and that. But I
Yeah.
think you do great. So I think you would do
Okay.
great. If you steam your booth well enough and you stand out, because remember, there's like seas of people walking past. If you don't
Yeah.
stand out, then you won't make nothing. But if you're like shirts are up high and like, I don't know, you could do a drop ceiling like you're in a yeah, there's a bunch of things you could do to try to make it look like it really, really has that feel. Like even that little toast guy in the background that
Yeah.
you got with the gloves on.
Yeah. My
Few of
biggie. Yeah.
those up front, they're holding shirts maybe or something, like you could do it.
Okay. I may chat with you because about that because I am starting to do I'm trying to figure something out. I need to do I've come to the conclusion that I have to do different things. And obviously I've known that, but it's also like one of those where there's certain events where I'm trying to do more events that are not the typical events, either the A that I'll do or B that I usually will go to or a different location just because obviously when you stay within your circle, there's no growth then. And then you're not kind of looking
Yeah,
to kind of go. And so like the hard part obviously for me is to do those things. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to do that. But now it's also all the different costs and everything that what it is it
yeah,
cost effective or worth it at the end? And I'm assuming you guys have had those where you guys have done, I mean, you've done it now long enough where I'm pretty sure you guys kind of have a routine of like, okay, these are the ones we usually go to. But I'm assuming Ashley kind of does a great job vetting on like a new market, like the one you said when you did the one in Georgia. Like there's got
yeah,
to be some good vetting going on of like, is this going to be worth our time and our effort? Because it is a lot of time and effort to prep and do all those things to go to
yeah,
a market that sucks.
yeah,
So yeah, are there things that how you guys kind of like your mindset when you go in there? Is it kind of like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to sell, or is it more of like, obviously I know it's a business, but at the
yeah.
same time, like sometimes you're going to find markets gonna that aren't going to be great.
Well, I can give you an example. We did a show in Georgia, which was not a bad show. It wasn't bad. If it was a local show for me, I would have been stoked with how much we made. But because we have so much in travel, and food and everything, there wasn't a lot left. I mean, we still made money, but it
Yeah.
wasn't the best. And it was a newer show. But the thing that changed all of that was I was with, oh God, six other artists, maybe more, like in the Airbnb. And we all rented scooters every night. We went to the Georgia Aquarium. We raced around town on scooters. We had drinks at bars. We just partied. So, you know, I didn't make as much as if that was a local show because I probably had, I don't know, $3,000 in expenses and whatever. But I still made money and had a really good time.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I look at it like that. But when you were saying you want to try venturing out to other stuff, I don't
Yeah.
know, like you could definitely go MegaCon first, but why not try something that maybe is like equally as good, but not as big, so you don't have all those expenses? Like, why not try a Tampa Bay Comic Con, or why not try Spookala? Spookala is not too much, or
Okay.
there's a lot of other like shows that are, you know, they're still great shows, but it's not what is it, Orlando
Yeah.
Convention Center.
Yeah,
I mean
and
that's
which to me I think is fine because I'm perfectly fine going smaller and trying to figure out the what I need to do to then be able to take the next step. So I mean that's kind of where I kind of how I've looked at it is trying to figure out because usually a lot of those are like 1 day or 2 days, right? Usually some of those events.
I think Spookala is 3 days, and they have Howie Mandel this year. That's a fucking
Oh
killer
well,
death. And what are you doing? Like you're doing punk rock fleas? I know that.
I'm doing
Those
punk
are always,
rock fleas, which are fun, and I need to start doing other punk rock fleas because
you
I've
want
been doing the
something.
Lakeland one. What was that?
Okay, you're doing single day shows though. You want to try like a 2 day pop
Yeah,
culture event.
I definitely want to try to do a 2 day thing. I think it's one of those where it's like that's part of the evolution that I think I need to go to. And that's kind of one of the big things like as a small business sometimes that's a hard one and then it's like for me I'm just trying to figure out like okay, what is it that's the next step to get me to the next level? And that's
Yeah,
basically obviously get more people to see me and go to more places and do more events and obviously doing a 1 day event is not going to, especially it's sometimes not worth it if you're going to travel to go somewhere for a 1 day
yeah,
event. It's
yeah.
not worth it.
That does make it harder. So, but to be fair, like some 1 day events, like the Lakeland Punk Rock Fleet, that's a fantastic show.
Yeah.
So, the next one we do is in Bradenton, right? I think at Cool Daddy Records. I think that's Bradenton.
Yes. Yeah. No, St.
And
Pete.
St. Pete. Okay, I'm super excited about that show because it's still the same caliber, but it is much longer of a travel. But I share an Airbnb with like two friends that will bring their kids, and
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have fun. Like we play like silly card games, and so it's like whatever. So it's a 1 day show, and I stay the night, but I got like some entertainment out of it. And
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be fair, all these shows, almost anywhere I do in the state, from North Carolina, New York, Florida, wherever, the people that do shows seem to have like a same mentality that they're already your friends, you know? And then the ones that are your friends, you share Airbnbs with and shit, like it's it's comfortable, like it's fun now. So I don't know. So because I
No,
do work
I
7 days
agree
a
with
week,
you.
but
Yeah.
I get all the other stuff, like I still get to have a good time with everybody and stuff. So
So let's talk about that since you say you work 7 days a week. And I know that's like it's a nonstop process because sometimes the weekends, a lot of times that's when you're selling, but you're getting prepped for during the course of the week for it. So what do you do? What do you do for fun when you're not creating and doing and building, assembling, painting, all staining, all that stuff? What do you guys do for fun? Like what's your, are you sitting back at your tiki bar in the back of your house with
yeah.
drinking a Mai Tai? What are you doing?
I got two things. I like to, with my wife, get into good like shows, like a good Netflix.
Yeah,
Play
yeah.
ukulele. I love playing the ukulele. I used to love guitar, but it's too much work to plug in the guitar and the whole nine words. I just have a ukulele next. And then lately, I've been building dragon puppets with my daughter. We've been uh, building dragon puppets, and I'm trying to convince her we should sell them on Etsy, and she doesn't want to sell them. And I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like, if you sell one, you have all this money to buy the material for the next one. So we've been doing that for fun, and then we hang out with friends and family a lot. Like we entertain because we have a big backyard and all that. So weekends that we don't work, we invite a lot of people over. We have a lot of family that lives pretty close in the neighborhood. My family only lives like a golf cart ride away, so everyone
Oh
is
wow.
close. So we entertain a lot, and yeah, I guess that's what we do for fun. We entertain, and I build dragon puppets with my daughter right now. Whatever
Great.
project she's in, I guess is my what I do on my off time. Like I try to like be all there for her for whatever she wanted to build uh, a dispensary machine, like a like you go to a chip machine, you hit one and the chip falls out. She wanted to build
Yeah,
one out
yeah.
of cardboard, so that was my while I was trying to cut wood in between. I was cutting the cardboard, and then she would paint it, and she wanted to build her own vending machine. So that's for fun.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you're basically inspiring your daughter to be use your creativity and to build stuff like that. Well, out of curiosity, the dragon, are we talking like Kermit like style dragon where like the mouth goes like this, or are we talking more like like you have like the arms and it basically can fly? Like what is it? What is it really?
we're, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to the big one. She found a girl that she liked. I wish I could remember her name. I want to give her a shout out. Uh, it was something help something keep drawing, but she put a pattern up where she made a puppet head and she like did it all out of foam. And then she was watching her on YouTube, and I was like, "We can build it. Yeah, we can build it." And she's like, "I want to build it." I was like, "We can build it." So we bought the pattern, and then but the pattern was only like $16. Like I feel like the amount of work that this girl put into this, I feel like I should. I wish I remembered her name because she's
We'll
just
we'll put
so
it in the show
more.
notes. We'll put it in the
Okay,
show
all
notes
right,
so
good.
people can buy it, and we'll
Yeah.
do it that way.
So her puppet starts out as just a hand, and then it wraps around the body as a full dragon, and then this hand is the tail,
The
and then you build
tail.
yeah. So
Oh,
you
that's
you hold this dragon, but
awesome.
you have a fake
Yes.
arm. So we're
So
starting
it's
with the
almost like a
head.
minx, like a what is it called? Like not a minx
Yeah,
coat,
me
like what is
too.
it like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
but yeah, like
Like
that
when
kind of
you have
style
fun.
where like a
Yeah,
foxtail type
yeah, yeah.
thing. Yeah, but
100%.
you basically have the mouth and the tail, and you can actually
Yeah.
that is awesome.
And then and your arms are fake. So
Yeah.
I was like when I saw it, and I saw the girl was doing some techniques to make the puppet fabric pattern at the end. I was like, she was obviously into it, but I was like, oh shit, if you don't do this, I'm doing this, because I got so into it, and obviously she's still into it, and we've almost got the finished foam armature to start doing the fabric of the competition.
That's
So that's what
awesome.
we do.
Awesome. I love it.
And she
What
likes
a
instruments, so I try to get into that with her because she was learning ukulele. She learned some Taylor Swift songs. I was super impressed at how quick she picked it up. So I was playing with her, and I guess she's done with that now. I'm just playing ukulele by myself, but whatever. She's
how
interested in
old
the flute.
how old is
Uh,
she?
10,
10? That's
10,
awesome.
yep.
I love it. I'll ask another. I'm just kind of curious. I know as I detracted from talking the fun things that you do, but out of curiosity, like what are some shows that you and your wife are into that you kind of like? You kind of that you're watching.
Oh boy, um, that's hard because we go through a lot. But Sweet Tooth, which I'm struggling to get back to season 2 on Netflix because we just haven't found the time. Um, we just rewatched Entourage, which is silly, but
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
that was really fun to me.
Yeah.
We're trying to do House of Dragons because we did
Game of Thrones.
the Game of Thrones, and we murdered. We used to make. I think we were the first one. We did Mother of Pitbulls on Etsy. And that shirt used to sell, and then we did Mother of everything. So a lot of times, shirts I was making back then because we have housebroken clothing and black coffee and tea, and we still sell those shirts. And my wife still prints them in the morning if they sell online. Not as much as when we used to promote it, but that was a thing. We used to watch shows like Orange is the New Black, and I'd be like, oh my God, that's the greatest slogan ever. Next shirt, you know? And then I would draw like the girl that said, I threw my pie for you. And then I don't know if you watch that show, but it
Yeah.
was always like topical stuff like that. So when Glow had Zoya the Destroyer and I forget who she, whatever, I was like, I got to draw them like in a, like the old boxing thing. And, you know, so that would be like all that type of stuff. The show we're watching right now, you know, to be honest, we're watching the Bluey minis that are 4 minutes long that my daughter's been putting on. That's what we watched for the last 2 nights. And I did a Bluey totem for her as
You
well.
did? I want to
Yeah,
see it.
yeah.
I'm a blue.
I
By
was
the way,
thinking,
I'm a Bluey fan. By the way.
it's funny. I did them as the granny. So I did one for her, and then she wanted one for her cousin, and then we did one as a display. And if anybody wants it, I'll make another. So we just display it as a show. I'm not. That's a you know that's a younger market that probably doesn't have the money at MegaCon. You know, a kid
Correct.
walking around 10 is probably not going to come to my booth and say, "Give me 2 of those blues." So, but I still made it. I still made it, and I love it. You know. Oh, and we're in the One Piece. So, me and my wife watched the One Piece live action, and
Yes.
she was already getting into One Piece the animation because her friend was into it. And then we watched the live action, and now she's like on episode 500 of that. So for her room, I'm making a One Piece like tiki, like where there's like flowers in it and all that stuff. So
I was gonna say,
uh,
based on that, are you making like a tiki? What? Because you guys have like I've seen, I like some of the ideas of some of your like your fun pop culture tiki stuff, like your designs that you've done. Like I've seen the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think I've seen He-Man. Things like that. Like, are you thinking of doing or have you done one for One Piece?
yeah, I'm working on One Piece right now, and it's
That's
kind of
awesome.
crazy because if you were like a professional business, you would probably make products based on what would be your best sellers. We just make stuff based on what we want to hang in the house. And then when other people like it, we're like, oh my God, we like you. You know, like, seems like we have something in common. Like, I made Frankenberry, and I just finished Blueberry and Count Chocula. And, you know, the person that comes in and buys that, I can't imagine I don't get along with them. Like, we have to be the same
Yeah.
age bracket. So I don't know. That's how we pick to make stuff. So.
No, I love that. I love that. Hey, I know one of my friends, I laugh because one of my friends, the last market I sold at, you guys were selling. I didn't get to see you because it was such a big market. We were like on different parts, but I laugh because she goes to me, she goes, because I saw a bunch of people carrying your stuff, some of your wall arts and stuff like that. But one of my friends was like, oh, I got this amazing, I think it was one of your prints. She goes, I got this amazing print. And I'm like, oh yeah, what was it? And she goes, oh, it's she was like, it was like a skeleton eating pizza. And I was like, is it Great Scott Designs? She goes, yeah, he's holding it for me. I'm gonna go back later and get it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, he does amazing
That's so
stuff.
awesome. That's
Yeah. So
awesome.
I loved being able to see that. And I love, like, that's one thing I love seeing is like my friends' stuff. Like when people walk around an event carrying stuff like that, like carrying someone
Yeah.
else's. And I think that's like it's just like it's kind of a cool thing. He's like, oh, isn't that so cool? I'm like, did you love that? I'm like, how great were some of his stuff? I'm like, I would buy all that stuff if I had wall space.
Yeah.
So yeah, man,
No,
it's awesome.
that's
What
awesome.
what advice would you give someone if they wanted to start something?
If they like, have they already started? Are they working on something and they have like a something to move forward on, or they want to start a whole new thing?
You tell me. That I'm making it open ended. You take it how you
Say,
want it.
let's say if I was to look at it as myself, when I was definitely done working like in corporate jobs and doing like web design and illustration, logos and shit, I would say what you need to start is don't question yourself. Like, it's okay to question yourself, but just try shit. Don't be like, no, I don't want to do like this local like little show that only has 100 people. just do it, dude. See what happens. See what happens. Don't be like I'm better than that, or don't feel like I don't know how to explain it, but like get out of yourself and go try that shit and be uncomfortable. You know, do that show, and then if you really want to do that stuff, you'll do whatever it takes to get to the next step. So, like, I think my first show was Stitch Rock in Delray, which was a good first show because it was a busy show. But I knew the event coordinator. So I don't know if I would have got in or not, but we went to high school together. So she put me in that show. And I showed up with a box of shirts. That was it. I didn't even have like a display. There was a table in front of me and I folded them out and people were like walking up and buying them. And I didn't like, I had no plan. I didn't have change. I didn't have a credit card. I nothing, knew nothing. But that was enough for me. But I was super uncomfortable to do it as well. Like I was like, like I'm going to see people I know from when I was in school. They're going to think I'm stupid because I don't have a job now and I'm just going to try to do this. And like all the insecure feelings you could ever feel come out when you're faced in front of a crowd of fucking people and you're like, this was my idea. Like, I'm going to do this now. Like, it's hard. But if you keep going through that, you get good at it. And then you look forward to that. And then it becomes your whole life. Which sounds maybe bad, but it's not if you really like it. Like if you want to do that stuff, like whatever you're doing, whether you're, selling pottery or painting or whatever it is, once you engulf yourself in it and becomes everything like falls into place with you as well. Like I don't know how to explain it, but like you know how to manage your time. You make friends. You have schedules. You have a routine that like I wake up every morning, anywhere from 5 to 6, and I draw until 8 o'clock. Like that is like almost become a meditation now. Like if I didn't own a business doing my artwork, I would be missing that. It'd be weird. So I don't know. I guess what is my advice? I need a good advice for
No,
you.
dude. No,
What is if you want to do it, don't give yourself any excuses not to do it. Because the second you give yourself an excuse, it's super easy to be like, oh no, it's too hard. Or oh, it's too much for the booth. Don't do that, dude. Just say, I'm doing it. I don't fucking care. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And then do it. And then if you completely fail, but if there was any glimpse of something that seems like this is right for you, then figure out how to make that part right for you. And then just keep going if you really want to do it. But if you don't want to do it, you can make excuses for yourself all day and just feed yourself out and say, I don't know how everybody else does it. I can't seem to make it work. So I guess that's two mindsets as well. Like do it or don't do it. I hope I hope you
no,
answered the question.
you did, man. That's like I totally love. I absolutely love that. It's yeah,
Thank you.
that's perfect. What would you what's the best way for people to follow you and for them to be able to like keep an eye out, see like wherever you're selling at, so they can check out you. Obviously they can check out your stuff online, so you can give us the website, but how can they
Yep.
find you if they're in an event coming up that they can look forward to come and do some shopping and meet you guys?
So I keep up mostly on Instagram. I right off the bat apologize because I find myself over analyzing what I post. Like I'll be working on something and I don't feel like that's a good post. And so, but I always post I'm going to be at a show, but I don't update enough. But that is the best place to follow me. You can also go to greatscoutdesigns.com and join my mailing list, which is also something that gets neglected a bit. So I get, yeah, the best way to follow me is Instagram, and my handle is Great Scout Designs. And I'm always trying harder to keep up on there. Now, when I do a show, I've made it a point to post like 3 or 4 days before the show, and I try to post something kind of fun, like a fun picture or something that I'm going to be there. And then when I'm there, I post the days that I'm there. So that's how I keep up with schedule. I always wanted like a website where people could go to a page and it tells you like the whole year's tour, because my wife pretty much has the whole year mapped out before the end of the year. I've always wanted that, but then things change, and then you have to log in and change it, and then I'm like, I got this to do, and that. It's hard being a you know small business. You can't keep
What
everything up.
I wonder if there's a way you can do where you can have like a Google Calendar and people can just click on it or something like that. Or the other option would be you're on your Instagram, you know, like the highlights have like
Yeah,
make one of the highlights like your event calendar. So that way they can click on it and they'll see it and then you can like pin it. So that way it's like the first thing everyone sees. That may be an option for you that could work. But um, man, I always love talking with you. Your energy, your positivity, the definitely is very inspiring, and I really appreciate knowing you for so many years, and like just the fact that like the other thing, like perfect example, like the sharing of information is so I think so key that people don't like the mere fact that you're like, hey, you really should think about doing atomic, and like to me like that those are the things that I appreciate because a lot of times people don't want to share that information. And to me, I think,
everyone.
why not share it?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone in my network of friends that I do shows with, they share. If they
Yeah.
don't share, they end up just not wanting to be around you because like you're around a bunch of people that are like, "Oh, this show is awesome. You should try this. I was nervous about this and this." The people that don't want to do that don't want to be around you anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
They're uncomfortable in that, and I don't think that's the way to do it. I think that like clearly, like what I sell might be different at a show than what you sell, and I may be better or whatever. But I want to let you know everything I know because I feel like why wouldn't you let me know everything so I could make a good decision? And then I always, any of my friends, I'm always like, dude, I like this show, but I'm not responsible if it bombs for you. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, there's a shitload of people there. So if it bombs for you, it's not my fault, but
Yeah.
we did well. I'm just letting you know. Like here's a video. I send friends photos and videos of audiences all the time. So yep.
I love that, man. I love that. Definitely, I definitely appreciate it. That's our show for today. Thank you so much to Scott Martini of Great Scott Designs. Definitely check out his work. His large pieces, if you can afford it, they're unbelievable. And if not, that's the beauty of it. You can find. I'm probably pretty sure you'll find some cool of either print or pop. Some of the designs that he's carved. You'll definitely want to be able to check that out. Thanks for having lunch with me today, man. Um,
Oh
definitely
yeah.
make sure definitely make sure to check them out online. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe, give a rating, share this. If you want to support my brand, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads. Do some shopping and tell your friends. Thank you. And till next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.